Welcome back to the Levine Family Racing Podcast. As you can see, once again, we are doing our interview via Skype. So this week, I am joined by Jeremy Lange, once again, the president of Levine Family Racing, Jeremy Davidson, the vice president of sales and marketing for LFR, and we have a special guest, Jordan Bianchi, who is a motorsports reporter from The Athletic. So thank you very much for coming, Jordan. We really appreciate you having you here.
Pleasure. Always fun to talk racing, especially when we got nothing else going on.
Absolutely, man. So
nothing else going on. What are you talking
about? Well, we can't leave our houses. Let me put it that way.
Have you been under a rock, Jordan? What are you doing?
I'm just sitting here on my couch, bored, lonely.
Oh yeah, that makes four of us on this podcast. I told Jeremy, I think this morning we talked that I was actually missing going to the racetrack. So
yeah,
it's been a while.
It's gonna be a while, I think, too.
It's gonna be a while. Yeah.
It's
a better way of saying it.
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants to be back at Martinsville. That's the date, that's out there. NASCAR said that, but you're looking at it and you read the tea leaves. It's just hard to imagine that that's actually going to happen as people expect. And then the announcement happened just a little bit ago with the state of Virginia announcing the stay at home. So it's like, okay, I don't know.
I mean, kudos to NASCAR for not releasing the schedule too early. So it would have been, having to readjust. Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about this last time, and they're really in a lose-lose situation of trying to figure out where to race first, when to race, how to announce it, how to promote it, how to get the teams ready for it. It's just going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Oh, it is. I mean, if you look at it now, I mean, your team, you can't be in the shop until May 1st right now.
Yeah,
and that's
through April 30th.
Yep. So how do you prepare for races?
That's pending nothing changing since before
and that's
the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's best case scenario. Nothing happens. Nothing changes. So if you have a race, even Martinsville is going to be a challenge. You're going to have 8 days to get ready for that. And that's a little bit easier because it's a short track and it's not that far away. But if you look at the schedule a little bit, so you got Kansas after that. How do they lay it out this year? I think it's Kansas. So, how you have to get in your shop, get everything ready, then get out there, and then hope that nothing else comes up in the meantime. So that's a big ask right now if you look at everything going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a goal, but what's realistic is what we're looking at. And I think, we were joking before we came on this podcast. We may race Charlotte 30 times if they let us.
Yeah,
I mean, it's an option. Anything's on the table right now. Anything should be on the table right now.
Yeah, and I think you made a good point. Is NASCAR's in a really tough spot. How do you schedule something when you don't know the variables? You don't know if your teams are going to be allowed in their shops. You don't know if the states that you have races set up and you're going to be allowed to go there and race. And what you know now, sure as heck could change 12 hours from now, a week from now. So how do you long-term plan? It's nearly impossible. And this is, you guys know this more than anybody, this is a giant boat. It's hard to turn this around and get it pointed in a direction at the drop of a hat. You need a little bit of planning, and you've kind of got to know what you're doing, and it's hard to do it that quickly. So I don't envy NASCAR. I don't envy the teams. It's a horrible position to be in, and it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Time will tell, right? And the one thing we have now is time. A lot of it.
Yeah.
Right, wrong, or different.
So we touched on it, obviously. LFR is shut down until at least April 30th. That is at the advisement of our local government, right? So let's we talked about NASCAR there and how this boat has kind of come to a stop. Let's kind of talk about other parts of the sports world and start with someone who is proceeding with their normal schedule in the NFL. We have seen the NFL free agency period has been open. Obviously, Tom Brady going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, some big names on the move. But what are your guys' thoughts on right now? You see there's so many people affected by this, right? So many people who are having to find work or being furloughed from their positions. And the NFL is out there signing multi-million-dollar contracts, right? Do you guys think it's a bad look, or just what's your overall thought on the NFL head down proceeding as is in the midst of all of this?
I'll let you guys go first.
No. Let you go first. You're the guest.
I don't have. I mean, Professionally, I love it because I'm a sports reporter. I want to cover stuff. I mean, that's the hard thing right now is what do we do? How do we find stories that are being covered? So as a writer, reporter, yeah, I'm okay with it because that gives me more to talk about, gives me more of my readers something to read. And as a sports fan, honestly, I don't mind it. I'm craving stuff right now. I want to be distracted from the news that's going on. I want my mind to be taken off of things. I don't have a problem if sports leagues can operate at some functional level. I'm okay with NASCAR doing iRacing. I think it's a great way to kind of generate some interest. I'm fine with the NFL going forward with what they're doing, and it's scaled back. I mean, they're not bringing in the free agents to the towns. They're not having the visits. They're not having the pre-draft workouts. They're not even going to have the NFL draft in Las Vegas. It sounds like. I don't know if that's official yet or not, but that's certainly the direction they're going in. So I'm okay with this because I think it's a good diversion, and I think while the numbers of the salaries and everything is always astronomical, and I certainly can't comprehend. I don't know what it's like to be a president of a race team or anything, but I can't comprehend that money. I also think that people are kind of at this point used to it, and they just kind of accept that the numbers are what the numbers are.
So, with that said, how do you feel about the UFC trying to fight?
That's interesting.
Forget signing players. Now you're talking about. Now you're talking about actually doing events, like having like championship caliber fights.
Yeah, in a sport where the athletes are making contact with each other, and you have trainers. Well, you're supposed to, and you've got trainers there and officials. I don't understand why they're going forward with what they're doing. I think at some point you just have to pull the plug and say, you know what, we can't do this anymore, and anything else we do is going to be far cry from our normal standards. But if you know Dana White, that's not Dana White's MO. And it's interesting to see what he's doing, but they're running into all sorts of complications. They're having a hard time getting fighters to fight. They have to get people medically cleared.
They're having a hard time finding venues.
They're having a hard time finding venues. So at some point, what are you hoping to accomplish here? Because I don't think what you're going to do is actually going to really serve a purpose. And I think in the long run, you're probably going to hurt your brand, and you're probably going to hurt. You could jeopardize the health of those people around you more than you could do, positive.
I see 2 or 3 different things there with the NFL. I'm not as opposed to what they're doing because they're not on the field playing. They're not at, in-person contact going on. And it does give a diversion, like Jordan's saying. Yeah, the money piece of it, I think could be negative in a sense, but I think you've also got so many players stepping up in so many leagues that are giving back and taking care of, the people that are working in the stadiums, the arenas, and paying their salaries. And regardless of how you feel about that, that's a generous gesture on their part. And if there's some people in the NFL, some of these guys that are taking home some of these big signing bonuses or whatnot in their free agency, it's a chance to make an impact there. And so it gives them an opportunity to take a step in the right direction, provide some good content for sports fans, as well as, give back to the community that perhaps they're going into if they're trading teams or moving. The UFC thing, I think, is crazy, though. I just think that's a wild card for sure.
I did think it was interesting today, and touching on what Jordan mentioned with having a hard time getting fighters there. Khabib, who I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name.
Let's just go with Khabib.
I copied and pasted into my document here to cheat off of, but I'm not even going to try. He is currently in Russia under a travel lockdown, and he was supposed to be the headliner for UFC 249. So I think with the knowledge now that he's on lockdown and probably will not be able to make it to the States, that could potentially, like, if you can't get your headliner there,
what's the point? What's the point?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Back to the NFL just for a second. Your thoughts on Roger Goodell notifying teams that any public discussion around the draft needs to be positive, or it could be subject to disciplinary action?
Yeah, that's, to me, standard protocol for the NFL is that you fall in line, and if you say anything negative that can be construed, that can hurt our brand and hurt our events, you're going to be fine. I mean, as a media person, I hate it because I want people to speak their minds and be out, candid. But if I'm running a league, I understand it. So I may not like it, but I agree with what he's doing, because it does make sense if you're trying to protect, as you like to say, protect the shield. But it would be nice if the owners could speak their minds without fear of retribution. But you also will get the Jerry Joneses of the world, and that those guys who will say something that negative will, of course, probably be against the grain of what the NFL wants, and then you have to put out those flames, and that's not something they want to deal with.
I think it's spot on. I think they control the message is what they do. And if they're going to tell you there's going to be a draft, there's going to be a draft. If they're going to tell you they're going to play football in September, they're going to play football in September. Maybe. But the draft, though, is, are there going to be – do we even know? Are there going to be people in the green room waiting to be called? Or are they going to be at their houses on like this? We've heard so little about what's going to happen in 2 weeks. Maybe they're doing smart about it and not releasing any details so they don't have to go back on it.
Yeah.
Less is more here, probably, right? So
yeah, and that's probably, if I was going to be a betting man, it would be probably the way they were going to go is what you said, which is probably do a green room, virtual green room, that kind of thing, and not bring everybody together because, again, you're going to have to spread everybody out. Plus, you've got everybody brings their friends and families with them and everything. It's just you don't get that atmosphere that you normally associate with the NFL draft. The fans aren't going to be there. The teams bring in all sorts of personnel as well. Again, it comes down to what are you doing here? And then if you also look at where they're going to do the draft, you're going to have limitations on places on how many people you can actually have at a venue at one time. So I don't see how you can actually have a draft where physically everyone is together. It seems like doing it virtually is the only way to do it.
No, I would agree.
So
the one, hold on a second, Tom. The crazier part or the different part of looking at it is the NFL has done such a great job of building their brand over the course of the year that the draft is one of their staple events, right? And for sponsors, partners, attendees, fans, the families of the draftees themselves, the teams, it's a spectacle, right? You have the draft rooms. What are they going to do? How are the Cowboys going to do a draft room of 10 people or 5 people or less and live stream it like they have in the past, right? It's going to be unique to watch what the draft does because they've made such a big event of it. Whereas like the baseball draft, I don't even know when that is. I have no idea when the hockey draft is either. Or the NBA and the NFL have created events around their drafts and made it one of their annual marketing tools or their tentpole events that they almost have to do something around it.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed, just to be honest, because this was the year that was supposed to be on the fountain in Las Vegas at the Bellagio, right? And I was already thinking about having players in the boats, moving up to the stage and everything. I thought that was pretty cool.
Somebody was going to fall in the water. I was waiting for that.
That would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
Or jump in.
Or jump in. So, yeah, it would be great. And, the nice thing is they will likely go back there at some point. They're putting the Raiders are in Las Vegas this year, so it'll happen at some point. But like you say, though, these are events. These are tentpole events that you build around. And I'll even say this about NASCAR. NASCAR this year is going to Martinsville on a Saturday night for the first time ever. There was an anticipation about that race.
We
hope. But and hopefully that gets in this year. But there was an anticipation for this race that was off the charts. People were excited about it. Saturday night short track racing. Oh, this is gonna be great. And unfortunately, they're having to punt. And it's unfortunate because NASCAR got off to a really great start to the season, and now everybody's scrambling trying to figure out how to make do out of this. And it's just the world that we live in now. And it's fascinating to see how this all is unfolding in real time and how sports leagues are going to be able to adjust.
So now that I think we're all over the initial shock of no sports on TV, right? Some of the trickle down that you start to see really comes into play. Particularly, let's talk about how sports betting has been affected by all of this. Obviously, if there's no games, there's nothing to bet on, right? And sports betting was something we saw really making a lot more inroads into public acceptance, I guess, for lack of a better word. Do you guys think this slows it down, or just what's your views on the states of where sports betting's at?
Jordan, you can go first.
I think you need live events. That's what betting is. And if you don't have those live events, you're going to hurt. And we're seeing the casinos trying to figure out what to do right now. Las Vegas is shut down. I've never seen that happen in my lifetime. So what do you do? There's not even a couple of weeks ago, I stumbled across 11 o'clock at night. I stumbled across Australian rules football, and I was beyond excited that there was live sports on at 11:30 at night. And then the next day they canceled. They postponed the league. So what do you do? I mean, you're seeing this right now, and I think the only thing you can say is eventually sports is going to come back, and these businesses will be able to get going again. But right now, in the short term, it sucks. It sucks for the business. It sucks for the employees, and
sucks for the bettors.
It sucks for the bettors. I mean, what are you supposed to do? There was actually, I saw lines that were posted for the iRacing event yesterday, and I was like, "This is great."
You can bet on Jeopardy right now.
Yes, thank goodness.
I mean, they're betting on Jeopardy because I think they tape Jeopardy 3 months ahead of time, and the networks are at a complete hush policy so that no one knows who wins or who not. And I think I saw lines on Jeopardy. Not that I'm looking, but I saw lines.
You were betting, weren't you?
I was not. I would never stoop that low to bet on Jeopardy. I draw the line at dog racing. And I think as of last week, you could actually bet on horses. I think horses were still racing in California.
They had a horse race yesterday or this weekend in Florida, some Florida Derby or something.
After the iRace, they had Fox was airing the horse races, and people were betting on those. So.
And you can still bet on. I guess they're racing camels still over in the Middle East somewhere. So you could probably bet on camels somewhere. It's crazy. I mean, you're right though. We are dying for sports, and I think about DraftKings and FanDuel and all these online betting, daily sports and live betting on games, and it's just. That market's just came to a complete halt. I mean, we all work in the sports industry, so we came to a complete halt also. But to Tom's point, you think about all the trickle down, and casinos and betting. And we're in the middle of March Madness. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're talking hundreds of $1 million legally and illegally bet on a sporting event that is not even happening. And and it's depressing that to me. I don't know what's more depressing, having no sports on TV or having them show last year's March Madness or the last 10 years games of what the best game for that day, right? And I'm not sure which one's worse. I think I'd rather have nothing on, because watching last year's or the big game from 10 years ago makes me wish it was on like real live now.
Yeah, and it's not just the gaming institutions, it's the television networks. They're losing viewers, they're losing advertisers. I mean, it is across the board. Where people are just there's not much going on. People are tuning out, and they're finding all their alternatives right now. You're going to start seeing it too with live programming, when and TV shows aren't going to be able to film. Movies are getting pushed back to the fall. It is just a surreal time right now where it's just like nothing is happening. And in the day and age where you have everything at your fingertips and everything, information and entertainment constantly, it's all just kind of like going away.
I saw a funny tweet. You're really going to see what the news personalities look like 30 days after they don't have hair and makeup people do, prepping them for the news at 6 o'clock in the morning. You're going to see what people really look like when they get out of bed. So it'll be interesting to see, because, right, I mean, no hairdressers, no makeup, no nothing, right? I mean, to your point, movies stop, TV shows stop. I mean, where do you draw the line?
I don't know. And I don't see a finish line in sight. I mean, hopefully it's soon, but you according to the experts, it doesn't sound like it. And if that's the case, it's probably going to get worse.
So let's ask you a question. Being for the Athletic and writing on sports, where do you look for topics when sports aren't happening?
Well, luckily for me, I cover sport and motorsports. It's been very active. There is a lot of, I will say, I honestly feel like I've been busier these last few weeks than I even during like speed weeks, which is the craziest time of the year for us, or even during the championship week. It seems like there's stuff going on almost every single day, and there's big stuff going on every single day, and there are stories to pursue. And when we're not pursuing that stuff, isn't the news isn't happening, we have stepped back and said, okay, what kind of broader topics of things can we that we can write about, that we can talk about, that our readers might be interested in. So for me, for example, I'm doing a thing on drivers who their first career win, and I'm talking to different drivers, and they're telling me their experiences in that when they won their first race at the Cup Series. My colleague Jeff Gluck is talking about is interviewing drivers and what they're doing during this being quarantined, and how they're getting through. So you just look for broader range topics that people want to talk about, and it's challenging, it's tough, it makes you be more creative. You also put your ear to the ground and you say, what, if you got any ideas, I'm listening. Now's the time. So we are certainly open to ideas, but you do have to take a step back and try to figure out something more broad that that your readers are going to enjoy, and it is certainly a challenge.
We were having a similar conversation earlier today about social media and the content that we're putting out on social media as a race team when there's no racing going on. How do you fill that void? And so you do have to get creative and look at alternatives that you might not normally be able to plan for or to stop and think about versus being more reactive as to what's going on in the sports world.
And I think NASCAR's been in a great spot where they've had the iRacing stuff going on, where a lot of the social channels can devote time and energy to that. And other people, for example, we've covered the iRacing stuff pretty extensively, and we're going to continue to do so because there is an audience for that. That is evident. So luckily for NASCAR, that's there, but it's, you have to find other stuff besides, what's happening on Sunday.
So one of the other items that we just throw in here quickly that's part of the trickle down as well, the secondary ticket market. Institutes like StubHub and even Game Time or Vivid Seats or anything like that, how do they even try to stay afloat at a time like this? There's nothing, right?
Right. I mean, the time in sports, there's no Disney on Ice. There's no,
right.
There's no nothing. There's no concerts. We have tickets for concerts later this summer, and I'm hoping that they'll be around. And then you got to deal with those who already bought tickets. Do you refund the price? Do you give them a credit to the neck? It's going to be a fiasco. And you're right, Tom. Those secondary markets, those guys that are on the corner selling tickets right now, I'm not sure what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. And I don't understand. I think long term, I don't think they're going to be around much longer, unfortunately. And that's the sad reality is, like a lot of businesses that are centered around entertainment or even restaurants, bars, your customer base isn't there, or it's at a significantly lower level. I don't know what the aftermath of this is going to look like, but I think it's just going to be horrible.
Well, don't we face the same issue with people coming to races?
Yeah.
Let's say that June 1st, everything's hunky dory and we go back to racing and, we're able to do whatever we want at the racetrack. If you're a fan, do you really want to go to the racetrack that weekend?
You'd have concerns and questions. I think,
but not just racing, any sport, right?
Any sport
where it's mass gathering.
And I know, in sports, obviously television rules everything. The dollars you get from television mean more than just about any other thing. And ticket sales aren't nearly as important as they were 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Still, they do matter. And when you have potentially races or sporting events being held in empty stadiums, that's going to affect the bottom line. And that bottom line is eventually going to trickle down. And you're going to see a consolidation at some levels. And that's the unfortunate reality. But there just doesn't seem to be any way around it right now.
And Jordan, I don't know if Tom knows this, but knowing that you're a big wrestling fan, and WrestleMania being on Sunday, and Vince controlling the product, and making it 2 days, and he's got WWE.com, he's got the app, he's got he's got the OTT, he's got the paywall, all that stuff. He controls the product. No fans, he clearly can still do what he feels is a quality product for his viewers. It's weird looking, but he's been doing it for the last 3 weeks on Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, and the question is it a quality product though? that's individual opinion. Yeah, so WrestleMania is the biggest spectacle sports entertainment event around, and the reports I read, he's leaving like $20 million on the table from the live gate, which is just astronomical. Which is like, are you crazy? And if I'm a shareholder of WWE, I'm asking questions, going, what are you doing here? We're not making enough off of the network and subscribers to make this. To justify this expense. I don't understand it. And then it goes back to what we said about UFC. This is an event where you have your participants in physical contact with each other, not to mention you have to have referees and all the people backstage and announcers and everything else that goes into it. You are flirting with danger by sitting there saying, we are going to go ahead with this event, despite everything else shutting down across the sports landscape. We're going to go ahead and do it. And what is the gain? I don't see it. The end to me does not justify the means.
Do you think it has to do with the TV dollars that they got from Fox from being on SmackDown on Fox?
I think there is certainly Vince has always been somebody who is march to his own drummer. He's going to do things his own way. He's not going to let anybody tell him what to do, and that's fine. And that's gotten him a long way, and good for him. However, at some point you have to step back and look at the bigger picture. And you have a record TV deal from Fox, and I'm sure the networks are craving live content right now. But look at the television numbers, though. The television numbers are going backwards. Even though they have no competition, they're going down, which says something about that. So long term, this doesn't seem like a good idea. Just it seems like the best thing is take a break, reassess, and come back down the road, and then you can have your big WrestleMania with a packed 70,000 fans in the stadium, and you can have your ticket sales and everything else that go along with it, and that would seem to be the better path. But for whatever reason, they're going to do this. But what happens when one of those performers gets sick?
All right.
And all of a sudden everything is shut down, and then you've got to explain why we went this way. And we decided we were going to go ahead, despite everyone else saying that this was a bad idea, all the public officials saying don't do this. At the end of the day, we had to say, you know what? We were wrong. But that's a risk I wouldn't want to take.
Will you watch?
No.
You're not going to watch it on Sunday?
I have no desire to watch. I have fallen out of love with wrestling. It's a bad product. It's horribly mismanaged. I have no interest whatsoever. And part of Mania is a spectacle. It'd be like watching the Super Bowl without a halftime show, without everything, all the great commercials that go along with having a Super Bowl. Part of WrestleMania is the spectacle, the entrances, the fans getting into it, that moment when that wrestler achieves, yes, it's scripted, I know, but it achieves that moment, that means something, and you witness it. You're not going to have that in an empty arena with no one around. It's like, what are you doing? It's like holding it in your garage.
Well, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Hey, going back to the secondary ticket market and the sports betting, there's going to be a lot of companies that fall because of this. But at the same time, I think it's going to be, as we talked about last week, a reset for a lot of companies. And it's the creative people are going to rise to the top and find ways to create different ventures that are going to be surprising, probably, and just new ways of doing business, whether it's in ticketing or hospitality, whatever the case may be. But I think we're going to see some pretty cool things that come out of this on the backside. So I'm excited to see that. I wish I was smart enough to come up with some of those things, but I'm not. So it'll be fun to watch and see.
Well, that makes me nervous. I will say I saw something pretty cool. I saw some drivers doing virtual meet and greets with some of their sponsors.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty neat. So what I don't know was it tied to the iRace yesterday? So were they doing that before the iRace?
I saw it on the IndyCar side on Saturday before their iRace.
I saw Eric Jones doing it. I don't know.
Yeah, a couple of them might have been.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty neat.
I think it's
just
great.
A different way of doing it.
I still don't understand virtual autographs. No one has really explained to me what that is or how that works or what you do with it, but what do I know?
Do you save it as a picture and print it out?
I don't know. I have so many questions.
You don't have Haley's virtual autograph?
No, I have nobody's
requested that.
I couldn't even tell you last time I asked for an autograph. It's probably been 30 years.
What is the last autograph you asked for?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I hate autographs.
Jeremy,
I think they're silly.
How about you?
The only autograph I remember getting was Bo Jackson years and years ago when he was playing minor league baseball coming through Charlotte.
Tom, you know who Bo Jackson is?
I know who Bo Jackson is, yes.
Okay, just making sure.
I was watching a video of him yesterday, of Bo Jackson throwing guys out from right field, standing still, basically. He was incredible.
Hit a cannon.
Yeah.
Dano, when's your last autograph?
And I'm looking here in my office. I have it was given to me, but a signed picture from Bill Goldberg. And so that was the last one I got. But it's in line with what we were just talking about with wrestling, right? But
have they announced wrestling?
I don't know yet. I don't know.
Reigns pulled out, right? So
yeah, Reigns runs out. I think it's gonna be Braun Strowman.
Oh man.
That's what the dirt sheets say.
Now I'm not watching.
Yeah. So
they lost me at Goldberg anyway. So
yeah. So another topic I'd like to jump into just a little bit. Obviously, the news of the Olympics being postponed until next year has come out. An interesting blurb I saw on that this morning was that of all the major sponsors that they have that come along with the Olympics, Visa is the only one thus far to commit to being part of that in 2021. So if you guys are on the side of a Visa or someone who is a major sponsor of the Olympics, what's your thought process of, okay, we had all these resources allocated to do this in 2020, the event's getting moved to 2021. What's your decision-making process for it? Is it worth it doing next year? Is it an opportunity to get out? What's your thoughts?
I think it's the Olympics, and it is still, at the end of the day, it is one of the most watched the most sports event of that year. So people are going to be tuning in. People care. It's a global event. So if I'm a major company and a longtime sponsor of this, yeah, I want to be associated with it. I want to continue that association and what it brings, because a lot of these, these sponsors are just, it goes beyond just the summer games. It's also going to be the winter games, and they're multi-year deals. So I would want to be part of this. And if you can do it in the right way, where you do it next year and there's not the safety risk, I absolutely want to be on board.
I would agree. I mean, it's big dollars, and it's big dollars for a reason. People watch, people tune in, and a year delay is only going to build the hype even more, I think. And I think it was the right thing to move them. And I think I think you'll see the majority of sponsors continue on. Now it's not going to come without a little pain in trying to figure out where the marketing dollars come from, and if the marketing dollars, what happens, it's what's going on with their 2021 budgets, because they may have already spent that dollars elsewhere. And I'm not sure how it works. If it all depends if their 2020 budgets roll over, or if that money spent already just carries over. There's a lot of different questions that come down to the contracts. But I think if you were going to support them in 20, you probably going to end up supporting them in 21.
Yeah, I agree. The Olympics are the biggest thing going in sports, and it only comes around so many years. Most of the time, you're going to stay in the game.
Yeah, and having worked on some Olympic programs in the past, a lot of stuff's been planned for years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, P&G used to do the P&G house for the Olympic athletes' families, and to go see them, because when you're in the village, you can't see your family. So it was a place for them to meet after the events and go, and if they win medals and go see their family, and they go to these places, and it was great to see the faces on the families and the athletes in a safe place. And those have been planned for years. So it's only, now the question is, all those events and parties that were going to take place for those 2.5, 3 weeks this year, are those venues available next year? Are the restaurants and hotels available for next year? Because they were available for these 3 weeks, but we don't know what was available in Tokyo in 2021 for those areas.
And
that's where I have the issue.
Yeah, and a lot of the housing for the athletes and everything was going to be converted into condominiums and apartments and stuff like that. So now a lot of those leases have already been signed. So now you have to go back and you've got to say,
Correct.
Okay, well, sorry, we know you have a lease, but you can't move in for another 18 months. So
right.
It's I would not want to be in charge of managing that and having to do that. It's going to be a logistical nightmare. But I'm sure there's stuff in the contracts where you can go back and say, sorry, we've got priority. But I would not want to be handling it. You have to do what you have to do, because if you want a global event like this, it is worth it monetarily. I mean, you can look at the numbers. It is worth it. You're going to have to figure out how to make this work.
Well, and they've already invested $25 billion. I mean, they're not going to. The Japan has invested in Tokyo has invested $25 or $26 billion. I think I saw in the games. I mean, they have to do what they got to do to pull them off.
So before we go into Jordan as our guest, and we have our traditional 5 random questions that we give to everybody, that we give to every guest that we have on the podcast. Does anybody else have anything that's kind of come to their attention over the last week since Lange and JD and I talked, or just anything that they thought is interesting going on in the world right now?
It's a loaded question, Tom.
Oh, yeah. I know it. I'm throwing it out there.
I think it's sorry, Jordan. I was going to say.
No, please go ahead.
I think it's kind of interesting to see what considers as an essential service. Those businesses that are staying open. I think that's kind of funny to read through the list every so often. And it's
what's the funniest one you've seen so far?
Well, just some of the the launderers. Then, of course, your ABC stores, your liquor stores.
Yeah.
Bless them.
Essential, right?
Absolutely.
The craziest one I've seen thus far is so I'm down here at the beach for the last couple of days, and our neighbors here own a granola store, and it was considered essential because they're food service.
Okay,
and I was like, all right. So we went there today and bought some granola. So clearly, we found it to be essential. So, but it's I agree with you, Jeremy. It's strange to see what's like. Launders. I don't know that a laundry facility. People are working from home. What
happens if you don't have a washer dryer?
That's true.
Who doesn't have a washer and dryer?
I will just say that when I moved to Charlotte last. I have a washer dryer, but I moved to Charlotte last summer. Though I was looking at a place to live. Almost every place I looked at did not come with a washer dryer unit. Yeah. You had to buy one yourself.
Right.
So I'm just saying.
But if you had bought the place or rented the place, you would have bought a washer dryer.
I would have, but I'm saying there are people that may with it. You know what? I'm good.
It's fair. It's fair. Dano, you got a washer dryer?
I do have a washer and dryer. Yeah.
I saw a statistic this morning about Walmart sells the tops, not pants, but just tops, because of just the video conferencing that's taking place, have gone up like 35% in sales.
So, Tommy wearing pants?
Sweatpants. Yeah.
Jeremy wearing pants?
Shorts.
Jordan pants?
I refuse to answer that question.
I'm wearing shorts, so yeah, it's it's probably fun. It's valid. It's like the old newscaster, right? You wear a suit and a jacket up top, or a jacket and tie up top, and you wear a pair of shorts down below.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
All right, there we go. So let's roll into these random questions for Jordan.
All right.
Jordan, your favorite athlete of all time?
Michael Jordan. Love those determination. Loved his refuse to lose. Yeah, I will go to the wall. Anybody who says he's not the greatest basketball player.
All right. So then Michael Jordan versus LeBron, who wins?
Michael Jordan, better defender.
Next question. He's wrong.
Okay.
There's no post game. You can't defend the post game.
Okay.
Do you prefer talking or texting?
It depends on who the person is. There's only a few people I like to talk to, and then other people I'd rather text to because it's just easier. It just all depends on the person.
I like that answer.
And if she's cute.
Your favorite travel destination?
Oh God. So I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna get a lot of grief, but Walt Disney World.
There you go.
What? You don't have kids?
I do not like kids. But I love Walt Disney World. I love Walt Disney World. It's fantastic. Great restaurants, a lot of entertainment. Yeah, good bars. It's great.
Is this the Florida?
Right now? You could probably get a cheap deal right now.
Florida. Yeah, and they're closed, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd be there.
Yeah. Maybe.
You got a favorite park?
Epcot. Epcot, because they have 11 countries and you can have a drink at every single one of the countries. It's great. Okay, it's a great way to spend the day.
Like It's a Small World or something is your favorite ride.
No, God, that's a horrible ride. I got stuck on that ride once, and that thing is just like ingrained in my head. It was awful. But no, Walt Disney World. Yeah, go ahead and make fun of me. It's fine.
It's right. Have you been to Disneyland in California?
Oh yeah, I've been to Disneyland. Been to Disney World.
Better? Do you like Disneyland or Disney World?
Disney World's better because there's more to it. There's 4 different parks there as opposed to 2, and they've got more water parks, and it's bigger, better.
It's better for the family you don't have.
Yeah.
Right. Or don't want.
Don't want.
Your favorite band or musical artist?
I don't have one. I'm sorry.
No? What do you listen to?
I listen to everything from Frank Sinatra to Garth Brooks to Elvis Presley to Jay-Z to you name it. I don't have. I mean, right now I'm big into. What am I big into right now? I don't know. I'm big into like bro country right now for some reason, which is it doesn't speak well of me probably, but that's kind of what I'm into right now. So yeah. Jason Aldean, maybe.
All right, that's all good.
You lost me at country. Sorry.
Yeah.
You had me at bro, lost me at country.
Your favorite TV show of all time?
Sopranos. Not even close. It's the greatest show of all time. It set the table for what television was going to become and still is for the next 20 years. and it came out in 1999, and Tony Soprano was the bad guy that you rooted for. He was the hero, the anti-hero, but you wanted to see him do well. You wanted to see him success. He was an awful person. He killed people. He robbed people, but you rooted for him. And every time he was in a bind, you were like, how is he going to get out of this? I want him to get out of it. That set the table for really Breaking Bad, The Wire, and all these other shows we have seen since. Starts with Tony Soprano.
So with that being said, did you like the ending of the show or not like the ending of the show?
I love the ending of the show. I obviously want you would like some more closure and how things end. But if you take a step back and how that show was, it was so the antithesis of what a show is. It didn't always give you fulfillment for every storyline. There's a lot of threads out there that were just never tied together. I like that. It's kind of like real life. And I years later, I love what they did with the end of the show. In the moment, I thought my cable went out.
That's good. That's good.
Awesome. Well, that about wraps it up. Jordan, thank you very much for being here. Where's the best place for everybody to find you? Twitter, Facebook, yeah. What you got?
Twitter, Jordan_Bianchi. And then please check me out at theathletic.com. Great motorsports coverage there. We've got some great stories, news, features, things that you're not going to find elsewhere. So if you are in motorsports or even a sports fan, I think The Athletic is going to be something that's going to make you very happy, and you'll help you fill this void that you have right now, because we have a lot of great coverage.
Jordan, you don't want to give race fans your cell number so they can text you?
If they got it, you can DM me. My DMs are open.
You slide in his DM.
Yeah, if you're cute.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We'll be back later with another podcast this week. So also keep an eye on Twitter. We're going to start a hashtag here in the next couple of weeks called #AskLFR, where you can send your questions to us and we will answer them on upcoming episodes of the podcast, because that way you guys can do my job for me. So there we go. Thank you, Jeremy Lange. Thank you, Jeremy Davidson. Jordan, thank you again. And
Pleasure.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks all.
Thanks, guys.
See you.